The defense forces have achieved success on the southern section of the front. This was stated by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi, on his Facebook page. He noted that he is currently working directly in the areas where combat missions are being carried out in the southern operational zone. According to Syrskyi, Ukrainian troops are acting successfully in the offensive operation, thanks to which they have managed to reclaim hundreds of kilometers of land and 8 settlements.
Since the end of January this year, on the Oleksandrivka direction, the grouping of airborne assault troops and adjacent units have regained control over 400 square kilometers of territory and 8 settlements.
The general personally commended the servicemen of the 82nd and 95th Air Assault Brigades for their courage, resilience, and professionalism in battle. At the same time, the situation in this sector remains difficult. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that the enemy continues to exert pressure, actively deploying small assault groups for infiltration and using artillery, drones, and, in some areas, armored vehicles. The air assault forces also spoke about the operation in the Oleksandrivka direction. They noted that among the key tasks of the Ukrainian military are the defeat of the enemy grouping and its expulsion beyond the administrative border of the Dnipropetrovsk region. Despite the active assault actions of Russian troops, the air assault forces units continue to repel attacks while simultaneously conducting offensive operations. The air assault forces added that the situation remains highly dynamic. The enemy is trying to hold on to the captured positions and is using significant human and technical resources. Overall, since the beginning of the operation, the Air Assault Forces grouping, together with adjacent units, has regained control over more than 300 square kilometers of territory.
400 square kilometers of freedom is the exact figure announced by Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi in his new report. While the world was discussing diplomatic scenarios, the Ukrainian army continues to create a new reality on the battlefield. These are not just dry numbers, they represent dozens of deoccupied settlements and a strategic turning point that the enemy simply did not expect. In which directions did this breakthrough occur? How did the armed forces of Ukraine manage to break through the occupiers' multi-layered defenses? And what are these successes that determine the further fate of the offensive in the south and east? Right now, we will break down the details of this powerful operation that changed the course of the winter of 26. And for more details, check out our report. You are on the Glavred channel, and I am your host, Yevhen Serov. Like and subscribe to the channel. Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi did not reveal all his cards, but Glavred's analysts, relying on frontline data, point to several key areas. The greatest successes have been recorded in the southern direction and on the eastern flank. The Commander-in-Chief emphasized 400 square kilometers is the result of a 1,000 cuts tactic. Instead of a single large strike, the Ukrainian armed forces are conducting a series of medium-scale operations that deplete the enemy's reserves and force them to retreat from previously prepared positions. This approach allows us to minimize our losses and make the most effective use of Western high-precision weaponry. Glavred's report highlights the critical role of integrated battle management systems. Syrskyi personally commended the units using drones with artificial intelligence for the automatic detection and destruction of armored vehicles. It is precisely this technological superiority that made it possible to overcome the minefield stalemate. Ukrainian engineering teams covered by new electronic warfare systems are breaching paths through the fields faster than the enemy can respond. 400 liberated kilometers is proof that Syrskyi's smart war concept works against the occupiers' numerical advantage. The statement by Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi came at a very opportune moment. Once again, voices in the West have begun to call for a freeze and claim that the liberation of territories is impossible. The Commander-in-Chief's report is the best argument for our partners. As Glavred writes, the successes of the armed forces of Ukraine directly affect the volume of military aid. When the world sees real progress on the map, the discussion about war fatigue dies down. The 400 square kilometers that have been liberated are powerful signals for the occupied territories. Ukraine is reclaiming what is its own, and this process can no longer be stopped. Syrskyi's report fills the heart of every Ukrainian with pride. 400 square kilometers, thousands of lives saved, and another step toward our 1991 borders. The struggle continues, and there is still a lot of hard work ahead, but the initiative is in the hands of the armed forces of Ukraine. Do you think this success will mark the beginning of a large-scale collapse of the Russian front in certain areas as early as this spring? In your opinion, which direction should be the next to be liberated? Share your thoughts in the comments.